Everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Um, Welcome to week 7 of distance learning. We're going to go over a couple things for this week. One of it being the new grading system, which I'm sure most of you guys are aware of by now. And number 2, what our assignments still are. So, number 1, I'm sure most of you guys are aware of the new grading system that was approved last week. This grading system holds everybody harmless of their grade. So whether you get a D or an F, you still get credit for the course. Also, along with that, whatever your grade was on March 13th, your grade cannot go lower. It can go higher, but it cannot go lower than what your grade is. So for some of you guys are like, great, this is awesome. I don't have to do any more work. And I totally get that, and I understand that. For some of you guys, you might want to raise your grade still. You still might want to participate and be interested in some of the assignments we still have. And some of you guys, quite simply, your parents are going to be like, we still want you to work, because that's kind of where I'm at with my son. So I would like you guys to check your emails. I sent out a kind of a interest form here just for the plan of the rest of the year. We only have about 4 weeks left, and that's including finals. But if you guys can put your name in here and just, I have a multiple choice scenario here of what best reflects your attitude on the current grading system. And this will just kind of help me plan out the last few weeks here for assignments. And then I left an open space. Some of this might not be very specific to what your situation is, so this will give you down at the bottom here an area to kind of explain more in detail. But if this section right here for multiple choice really reflects your answer, then just feel free to do that. And feel free to leave me any comments about what future assignments you guys want to do, or how I'm managing the class online, if you would like to see more online classes or more demos, that sort of thing. Okay? Alright, so back to my face here. So again, I'd really appreciate it if you guys can do that for me. Today, Monday, I'm just going to do a quick overview of what we're about to do here, and we're going to get into a unit of photography, and I'm just planning to spend about 2 weeks on this, and I think the last 1 or 2 weeks will just be some extra drawing demonstrations on how to draw portraits and features of the face. And that's what I have planned for the rest of the year. So not much more to go, but I think the photography unit will be really interesting for you guys. Give you guys some really good, just simple tips to be better photographers. And we're not using digital cameras, we're using our cell phones for this. So my tips are really in tune to using cell phones, because you can still take really great pictures on cell phones. Just a quick overview of our front page slide here, just the date. We're beginning photography. We're going to focus on composition, okay? And composition is the way you take the photograph, what is in it, okay? It's not so much about the subject, even though we want interesting subjects, but it's just the way you arrange things. So I'm going to give you guys tips on different ways you guys can take photographs, okay? So just for today, just kind of help us a day to kind of think about what we're going to be doing here. I'm just going to go over some basic tips for you guys to think about and give you guys some resources for that. And then each day I'm going to give you a different compositional strategy to do. Now, even though they're separated by days, I'm going to do my best to get all that information in there at one time. So that way, if you feel like there's one day where you're like, hey, I'm just going to knock out this photography thing, all the information will be there and you guys can go do it. But if you kind of want to separate your time and do a little bit each day, you can do that as well. So each of these will be in Canvas. There'll be 5 points each. And just a little note on that too, I forgot to mention, my new grading system is going to be a credit, no credit. So for people that are continuing to submit their assignments, I feel no need to really categorize your grades at this point with the new grading system. I'm still going to give you guys feedback. I mean, that's the learning part. I mean, giving you guys feedback about what's successful and maybe some tips on how to make it better. Okay. But you really should be like no stress about what grade you're going to do. So if you do it, you do it, you get the credit. You know, even if you mess up or just kind of try to throw some, you know, bad assignment in there just to get credit. I mean, you guys can do that, but I'm still going to give you feedback on it. Like, hey, you know, this needs to get better. So, you know, it's doable. Okay, so I feel like that would be beneficial for you guys who are interested in doing the learning, not really worrying about their grade, just interested in the learning itself, or for people that do want to raise their grade. You guys will have the opportunity to do so with the credit, no credit system. Okay, so let's move on. So behind the two slides here, okay, photography rules, guidelines, and tips. And also right behind that, lighting, because lighting is king with photography. Okay, I'll keep these two right in front, right behind the home page here, just to kind of refer back to, because these are for all of your photographs. Okay, these, you want to pay attention to these. And then right behind these, you'll have your individual compositional techniques to use for your photographs. Okay, so trying to move through this pretty quickly. Okay, number one, I might number these, is not in any particular order, is wipe your lens before use. Okay, so we have our cell phone here. We forget, you know, we're always handling it. They're in our pocket, maybe mixed in with something else. They're sitting on a table or whatever, and we forget, you know, it's so small, but just the slightest smudge is magnified. So you know, use your shirt, use a little towel, use something not with a lot of fibers in it. This picture shows, you know, a little wipey clean cloth, but something that's just really dry. That will ensure that will not ensure, but really help to make sure that your pictures will be in focus, because if there's a smudge on there, chances are it's going to be out of focus or blurred. So that's probably step one. Take it out of your pocket, wipe it off. Okay. Number two, even though we're going to do compositional photos, and you're not going to really be assessed on what you guys take a picture of, you know, finding an interesting subject is really what your photograph is about. And you really want to highlight, you want to pick something and go, you know what, I want to take a photo of this. And you want to maximize that potential as much as you can visually, just to make it look really cool. Okay, so my tip for you guys is use people, animals, plants, any living things, or unique objects. Okay, you know, sometimes I get some assignments and it's just like a picture of a water bottle sitting on a table. Might work for the compositional technique, but will it make the photo interesting and really stand out? Probably not. So it's doable. Okay, but if you got somebody next to you, you know, you're at stay at home with little brothers and sisters, or a pet, use those as your subjects. They usually come out really well. And it's always nice to take pictures of people, you know, and you utilize these assignments to really document your time here, you know, stay at home, quarantining, coronavirus time period. Maybe utilizing this assignment to really reflect on, you know, what you did during this time would be nice, you know. Okay, let's see. We'll go up to here. Focus. Okay, pictures must be in focus. If the whole thing's blurry, probably not what you want. Okay, so two steps here. Hold your phone steady. Well, probably one, wipe the screen. Hold your phone steady. Make sure you're not moving it as you're taking the photo. And number two, if you really want to focus in on a particular part of your photograph, tap that screen. Okay, and tapping that screen, you'll see a little box pop up there, and you can move that focal point. Most of the time, people are happy with right in the middle, But with some of these compositional strategies, we might be moving the subject over and your camera is trying to focus somewhere else. You can move that just by tapping your finger, let it focus, and then take the photo. Okay? Let's see. Next one, we'll go down to here, use simple backgrounds. Okay? Probably biggest thing here is people don't really think about their backgrounds when they're taking the subject photo. Okay, so I got a couple examples here. Okay, yes, right here we got the subject, we're taking the photo, but too much stuff going on. It's really busy. So what that does for the viewer is they start looking around like what's going on back there, and it's just distracting to your subject. Okay. So really what you want to do is find backgrounds that are just blank or nice or just kind of interesting themselves, just to really highlight your subject. So I put an example here, not super flat, but you've got these umbrellas going on here. Kind of creates a little pattern, a little pop of color, and it just really kind of highlights the person here in the photograph. You know, for a photo like this, you know, sometimes you don't have that to work with. Like you don't have an umbrella right there standing on the sidewalk, you know, as you're traveling somewhere. This is all you have to work with, you know. Let's say you're visiting a new area. But kind of changing the angle of where you're at, you know, maybe up, maybe you get more of the sky, or you kind of like face towards the right and you got a nice wall back there, or simply move your subject to a different area and you'll get maybe a shot with a nice background in there. Okay. Other one here, and I guess I hold this for last because it really should be last, but don't overlook the editing settings in your phones. So before you guys submit them, experiment with the settings, okay? And you don't have to be a pro. You can really just experiment with what's going on there. Now, I use Photoshop a lot, so I kind of know what's going on, but it's different. You know, even if it says add contrast, it's going to add contrast in a different way than maybe other programs. So you really just got to work with what's there. And if it looks good to you and you keep going and you keep moving and you adjust the colors of the lighting and you're like, you know what, this looks good, I'm happy with this, or this goes too far, let me bring that back, this is how I want it, go with that. Okay, so you're the best observer in that scenario, because sometimes a lot of us are going to have different kind of aesthetics of how we want our pictures to look. Some of you guys might want really saturated, pumped up colors. Some of you guys might want black and white. Some of you guys might want some subdued color in there. And so that's really up to you. Okay. All right. The next slide here, okay, is lighting. Lighting is king in photography. Okay. This is what makes or breaks your photo. Okay. Both. I mean, it will make your photo really interesting, or not interesting, but make it look really good, or it'll make your photo look really poor and kind of not really usable sometimes. Okay, so let me go over these step by step. So with photography, you always want to think about your lighting source. You can't just pull out a camera or a camera phone and think you're gonna get good lighting. Okay. So I guess number one, don't take photos in bright light. And usually that's outside in the middle of the day with the sun blaring. You know, usually indoors, your light sources and lamps could work really well. But just be careful about really bright light. I would use the analogy here. If you have to squint to see, it's probably too much light, because that's going to happen to your lens. Your lens is not going to be able to focus as well. Sorry about that. Use diffuse light. So what that means is light that is partially screened or blocked by clouds, you know, overcast days. Cast shadows. So sometimes you can be, if it's a bright day, you can actually be in a shadow and there's still light in the shadow. It's not completely dark. And that will kind of block out the light a little bit and give you guys some good lighting to work with. Or windows. So even if it's a bright sunny day, sorry, can't see my arm here. So even if it's a bright sunny day, you know, if the light's not coming in directly through your window, you're still going to get light through your window, and so that's going to create some really nice lighting effects there. And anything else I'm missing? Yeah, earlier in the day when the sun's coming up, okay, or later in the day when the sun's just about to go down, low in the horizon, not sunset, because sometimes it's really dark during sunset, but it's on its way down, the lighting is going to be more diffused. And if you notice in those times of days, when you look at all the colors of the plants and the flowers and the buildings, that's when all the color becomes really pumped up. And that's what your camera loves. It picks up all those nice colors out there, okay? It's not washed out by the light. So, last tip here too is turn off your flash, okay? Don't rely on the flash. Flash is really bright light. If it's too dark, you know, maybe you want to use the flash if that's all you have to work with, but usually you don't want to rely on that, okay? So window light is great. So here's an example of that. Looks like it's kind of an overcast day in there as well. So they got two things going for them, but just really nice soft light. And also when you're using window light, you get these really nice shadows on the opposite side of that. And you know, emphasizing those darker shadows on your subject really help it stand out. If we think about one-point perspective when we're shading and we wanted those really dark shadows to help it pop out, that's what it does in photography as well. You want some nice deep dark shadows. Here's you know, sunlight, I mean not sunlight, but sunset type light. So kind of later in the day, it even has times as it's going down. And this is called the golden hour. You get those nice rich deep golden kind of hues in there and really pumps up the color, and you get some nice contrast in there, and contrast meaning you kind of get those nice shadows as well during those times. A lot of times when people make mistakes for this, they're doing it too late. So it's usually when the sun's right about to go down, you know, sunset, like it's going below the horizon. I'd recommend as it's before that, before it starts really turning orangey, okay? You get some nice lighting in there. Another tip, which we might not have too much success with these days, we do, it's Monday right now and it is overcast and a little raining, but I think that's going to go away for the next couple of weeks, but overcast days. And so even though the clouds are out, you know, the sun could be really intense above those clouds, and it's that light's coming in, but it's not like a spotlight. It's just scattered. That's diffused light. And so what you're going to get on those days is also deep, rich colors. You're not going to get as much contrast, but you're going to get a lot of detail of your subject. So you're going to see all the nice textures and this, you know, the little details, I guess, on each specific subject that you guys might have. Alright, so kind of some what not to do's here for lighting. Very rarely do you want to point your camera towards the light source. So that light coming in is really going to block out everything. So a lot of people tend to do this, like this picture here, like they want their subject with the sunlight, sunset behind it. Very rarely works unless you have a really nice camera and you do some editing afterwards. With your camera phone, probably not going to work, okay? In fact, this is a time where you want to use the flash. So the flash is going to brighten up the subject and hopefully still see the sunset in the background. So with that, if you guys do use flash, usually it's for outside, not inside. What you can do for these, if you are going to shoot into the light, is like this one, try to have it like scattered, like going through something. Or for this subject, I would actually have the subject move right in front so you get that glow kind of around, and then your camera is going to be able to, you know, not a lot of light's going to go into your camera lens. It's going to be able to light up and focus more on your subject a lot more. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people want that effect. It just doesn't work that well, okay? So always usually have your back to your light source, or at least on the side of your light source. You don't want to be pointing right into it. And a lot of people have this misconception. It's like, oh, I want my picture to be lit up, so I'm going to point my camera at it. Doesn't work that way. Okay, you want your light source out of the direction of where your lens is. Okay. All right, so here's another example here. This is kind of what it looks like in a really bright day. This is what we call overexposed, just too much light going on there. So usually, as a wedding photographer, you don't want to mess up wedding pictures like that. So, if that was the case, that's why wedding photographers use higher end cameras where they can adjust the lighting. But let's say they are using a camera phone like we are, you gotta use a different spot. So somewhere like in the shade somewhere, or somewhere where the light's kind of being blocked by a building or something like that will get you the picture and the exposure that you want there. Okay. But even nonetheless with the lighting, okay, if the lighting's not too perfect, you guys can always go back right here and try to edit that in there. Okay. All right, so I think that's it. I kind of gave like a little list. Most of that stuff's in here. Some of this stuff will go over in our individual assignments for compositions, but hopefully that will give you guys a good overview. What I'd recommend for today is just go out there and pick up your cell phone and don't worry about the subject. Think about the lighting and how the lighting is going to work. Take a picture inside, okay, maybe with no light. Take an inside picture next to a window light. Take an inside picture next to maybe lamp light. Go outside and take a picture, maybe in the backyard or right in your front yard, and see how the lighting situations change without editing. And you'll see there's going to be a vast variety of how your pictures come out with just the different lighting sources. And I think that would be just good practice for today. Okay, so after today, look forward or toward to all the other assignments being in the Google Slides. I'll be posting them in Canvas, and I'll try to get them all up at once as fast as possible just for you guys to review at one time. And another recommendation, look up some YouTube tutorials. There's just so many out there. I might look up ones that are just specific to camera phones. But what you will see is they're going to be explaining a lot of the same stuff, and also the individual assignments that we're going to have as well. Alright, so hopefully that was quick to the point for you guys, and if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Don't forget about that Google Forms if you guys can. I'd really appreciate the feedback on there. It just better helps me understand where you guys are at and help manage our time for the rest of the semester here. We're almost done. Really have about 3 weeks left. That last week is finals week, just so you guys know. Most teachers are not going to be doing finals. Finals are not required. Some teachers still might opt in to do so. But for this class specifically, no final. So you guys are good with that. All right. Well, it's good to talk to you guys, and you guys will see some future videos here for the individual assignments. All right. Take care.